Part 75. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 742. The 8th level White Dragon scale disappeared in Rudolph's palm, flashed across the star map, flew to the Capricorn star field, hit the Capricorn Alpha 2 star, and the progress of Capricorn came to 1/9. Capricorn has 9 bright stars, and 8 different relics can light up Capricorn. I don't know if there will be further changes in the star map after lighting up the 12 zodiac constellations. 3 suspended stars fell from the Capricorn Alpha 2 star. Rudolph suffered for several days and finally got the reward. 8th level White Dragon Breath, 8th level Dragon Scale Mirror, 8th level Arched Cepheus Throne Secret Formula, Special. 8th level White Dragon Breath is a witchcraft that instantly bursts out forbidden magic sparks, which Rudolph doesn't need very much. 8th level Dragon Scale Mirror can trap others, and Rudolph doesn't need it either. The third option, this secret formula actually has the word special. Is there anything special about Cepheus? When he hunted for the level 8 werewolf relic, he got the Arched Ursa Minor secret, which was no different from other secrets, also a hexagram and main and secondary relics. This was the first time he saw a special secret. After choosing the level 8 Arched Cepheus secret, special, Rudolph was stunned. This secret was too rough. The level 8 Arched Cepheus secret had nothing but a description. Fight like a knight, break through the limit in battle, and become a fairy king with the posture of a martial fairy. Rudolph was a little frustrated. He is now a level 7 wizard. When he just fought against the top level 8 apostle, he didn't feel any signs of breakthrough. Does he have to let this level 7 wizard jump 2 levels to fight against the level 9 apostle, and not die on the way to death, so that he can be promoted to the Arched Cepheus wizard? No wonder the secret is marked with the word special, it's too special. Rudolph suddenly thought of a possibility. Do those big figures in the secret know that the level 7 Hercules wizard may break through and be promoted in battle? Then, when he faces the 9th level apostles, can he be more arrogant? It's not necessarily who is afraid of whom. Maybe they are also afraid that the martial fairy wizard Rudolph will be promoted on the battlefield. Oh my God, I must suppress this thought of mine. No, this is the rhythm of playing myself to death. I have to hide and don't provoke those 9th level apostles. Rudolph has a lot of harvests. He opens the absolute concealment with satisfaction and enters the city of Minos. He is ready to have a good rest for a day and return tomorrow. He came to the door of a hotel and found that the entire city of Minos was under curfew. Seeing that there was no one in the lobby of the hotel, he couldn't check in. As a last resort, he found an empty room at random. He didn't sleep for several days. He felt that he was going to be exhausted. After the war, he fell asleep. Just when Rudolph was enjoying his dream, everyone in the castle went crazy. The earl's vassal, butler, and others were all staring at a consultant opposite. The consultant was a tutor in the earl's castle, a very old level 5 wizard. He was trembling as he wrote and explained to the nobles. He was writing a report to be submitted to the Lord Marquis. Dear Marquis, tonight, a shocking battle took place outside the city of Minos. Both sides in the battle were wizards, but their identities were uncertain. One of the wizards was suspected to be a vault wizard, an 8th level vault Draco wizard who could create a terrifying dragon with a wingspan of 300 meters. The other wizard was suspected to be the furnace that has been rumored to have assassinated the crown prince of the kingdom of East Elba. It is not very certain who is the furnace, because both sides have shown the ability to be reborn from the ashes in the battle, which is the iconic ability of the furnace and the ability of the Phoenix wizard, the strongest wizard in the South Sky. It is suspected that the furnace seems to have completed a secret formula of the North Sky constellation. He summoned the phantom of Hercules who traveled through history. The martial fairy Hercules was able to fight with the Gongji Tianlong. The battle between the two sides went from the ground to the sky, and from the sky to the ground. Fight to the end. It seems that Hercules has gained the upper hand and successfully defeated the arching dragon, using Hercules' favorite weapon, the olive tree club in mythology, to kill the arching dragon. Hercules finally roared wildly, and the body of the arching dragon created a large pool of magma outside the city. Minos City speculated that the wizard who summoned Hercules should be the furnace. Because in the battle between the two sides, Hercules was resurrected more times, and he was obviously better at resurrection. After listening to it, a viscount found that the earl's wizard stopped talking, and he was a little impatient, annoyed. Your report is full of guesses, possibles, and suspected. What can this prove? The wizard was also very troubled. He explained. My lord Viscount, I really tried my best to observe, but that was the battlefield of the arching wizard. Skyfire and sky arrows flew across the sky, and strong light illuminated the sky. The picture was interrupted by strong light from time to time. Both sides kept dying and resurrecting. When they resurrected, they would suddenly appear in another place. I really couldn't see the details. I'm just a level 5 South Sky wizard. The Viscount stopped talking because he couldn't see anything clearly. The battle that just ended was so powerful that the star power was filled with manic fluctuations in the entire starry sky. The other apostles could almost see the wizard's star power with their naked eyes, like a natural disaster. The Earl did not express any other opinions, but just said, just write it like this and hand it over to Lord Marquis as soon as possible. He was still in fear. Last night's battle was so close to Minos City. If the aftermath of any one person's attack reached Minos City, it could destroy half of the city. That terrifying breath, that mighty Hercules, each of them is the top existence in this world. 3 messengers took 3 identical reports out of the city from 3 gates and ran towards the Marquis City in the north from 3 directions. Before the messenger left for long, an old man with white hair and beard had already arrived outside the city gate in a carriage. The soldiers guarding the city first saw the knight who was guarding the carriage. The knight was the lord of Count Minos, the Marquis. The Marquis was a level 7 knight, and he actually served as a guard for the carriage. The captain on the city wall was so scared that he quickly organized people to open the city gate, and then went to report to the Earl. The carriage did not go to the Earl's castle, but to the door of a hotel. The old man got off the carriage, entered the hotel lobby, and waited on the sofa in the lobby. The 2 marquises, together with the Earl of Minos City, a total of 7 earls, stood behind the old man. They waited from morning to noon until a marquis got really depressed and asked, Mr. Astrologer, do you want to go say hello to the furnace? The person sitting on the sofa was Hermes, the royal astrologer of the Meguen Empire. No, Nadila is very powerful. Killing Nadila would cost the furnace a lot. Don't disturb the furnace's rest. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 743. At noon, Rudolph woke up from hunger. He hadn't eaten for several days. He didn't know if the city's martial law had been lifted, so he planned to go to a restaurant to find something to eat. When passing by the hotel lobby, Rudolph first saw several burly high-ranking nobles. The clothing of nobles has complex family crests, proving that their families have a long history. Among the burly knights, the old man guarded by the nobles stood out even more. Frowning, Rudolph was a little unhappy. He came here to complete the Zodiac secret formula, and did not want to deal with the people of the Moguen Empire. Somehow, his whereabouts were exposed. The old man looked like he had everything under control. He looked at Rudolph with a confident smile, and his words spoke volumes. The Moguen Empire's word spirit who can divine Rudolph, that old man is most likely the Moguen Empire's royal astrologer, level 8 word spirit Hermes. Ignoring these people, Rudolph first paid the accommodation fee at the front desk, then walked to the restaurant, bought a lunch, and sat at the dining table to eat. The nobles were all very angry. Only the local earl bowed his head honestly. This was a furnace that could kill the Gongji wizard. He didn't even dare to look directly at the furnace. Who do these idiots around them think they are? If the royal astrologer Mr. Hermes hadn't been here, they wouldn't even have a chance to escape after seeing the furnace. The Earl cursed in his heart, this furnace is so hypocritical, it is puzzling that he would pay for it. Hermes was not annoyed either. He also bought a lunch and sat opposite Rudolph with a plate in his hand. After killing the Gongji wizard last night, Rudolph no longer feared the level 8 apostle. Even if his whereabouts were discovered, he couldn't defeat him. After getting the method to advance to Cepheus, he just wanted something exciting. Hello, Mr. Furnace, I am the royal astrologer of the Mogwen Empire, Hermes. After waiting for a few seconds, he saw that the furnace had been dealing with the mashed potatoes, and he continued. You seem to have some prejudice against me and some hatred towards me. Mr. Furnace, may I know why? Rudolph felt that the good lunch no longer tasted good. He picked up the paper and wiped his mouth. I have been living on the northern coast of the Sarago Sea, on the Eagle Beak Peninsula, for the past 2 years. You announced a prophecy of the power of destruction. Eternal authority is a piece of fat, very fat. Fat to the point of the werewolf ancestral mountain, the royal family of East Elba, and the cult of evil god all eagerly marched towards the city of Legura. The Eagle's Beak Peninsula was destroyed and many of the people I knew there died. What do you want to say? Come on, I can't possibly have a good impression of you. I even bluntly say that if the soldiers of the Mogwen Empire start attacking West Elba, you will immediately become my enemy. The Royal Giant Corps is preparing to move on the border of West Elba. I hope you can warn Goliath, the king of giants. I am missing a level 8 relic. He may not know how suitable his relic is for me. Hermes left his lunch untouched. As an old man in his 90s, he had a small appetite. He looked at the furnace with a strange look in his eyes. I envy you a little. You are so young and your emotions are so full. You can make enemies of so many people for the sake of the Eagle Beak Peninsula where you have lived. Just like I did when I was young. Stop, Rudolph directly interrupted Hermes, reminiscing. He didn't want to hear a rotten old man talking about his youth. He said, what do you want to say? Say it quickly. I'm leaving. What I want to say is that I hope you will pay attention to the level 9 alchemy experiment that 11 Elba is conducting. They are doing some very terrifying things. When those things are released, they will greatly accelerate the process of world destruction. I think, you don't want the northern continent to really turn into ruins, right? The process of world destruction, Rudolph said. Were you very excited when you said this word? Isn't this exactly what you expected? Where can you get the authority to destroy if you don't destroy? Rudolph was suddenly stunned. Could it be that the authority of destruction refers to a terrible destruction? Hermes put away his patience and said very seriously, Mr. Furnace, in order to achieve a more ambitious goal, don't focus on the gains and losses of one city or one place. Some prices have to be paid. Are you trying to say that the destruction of the Eagle's Beak Peninsula is necessary, the price you say you have to pay? Although you don't agree with it, I think this is a necessary sacrifice. You can accuse me, and I understand your accusation. I can confess my purpose to you. In this feast of destruction authority, it is best to give the authority of destruction to the night. If it cannot be given to the night, then it is okay to give it to the giant. If the giants gain the authority to destroy, we, the Mogwen Empire, will help them separate half of the wilderness and build the giant king's court. No one but knights and giants should have access to the power of destruction. You hate werewolves and the cult of evil god so much, I think you should know what kind of disaster will happen when they become stronger. Rudolph did not reply. The power of words was pale. He could not convince the royal astrologer in front of him, and it was impossible for the royal astrologer to convince him. The noble standing against the wall thought that he was worthy of being a royal astrologer and that he had good self-cultivation. However, he was not angry at all and was still talking patiently to the furnace. Hermes smiled and said, "Forge, I like you very much and appreciate you very much. Then I can't thank you enough. It sounds like you don't quite agree with my appreciation. Well, then I'll tell you a secret that will definitely be useful to you." Rudolph frowned. He obviously didn't give the royal astrologer a good look. He didn't know what he wanted to say. "According to our intelligence, you should have more than one level 8 relic in your hand. A lot of level 8 werewolves died. I think you must have a level 8 werewolf relic in your hand. You just killed the level 8 arching sky dragon wizard Nadila, and his relic is also in your hand. What I want to tell you is that you must not go to the Arctic glacier, and you must not think about becoming an arching wizard." Rudolph was stunned. When he just woke up, he had thought about where to get the third level 8 relic. He did have 2 level 8 relics, and he only needed to get one more level 8 relic to complete a certain arching secret. The 5 arching constellations are Ursa Minor, Ursa Major, Draco, Cassiopeia and Cepheus. Cepheus is the most special. It does not need a level 8 relic, but needs to be promoted like a knight. The remaining 4 constellations all need secret formulas and relics. For example, the Ursa Major secret formula he obtained from the level 8 werewolf relic. The secret location is in the Callisto Glacier. Don't go to the Arctic Glacier? Why? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 744. Hearing the reply from the furnace, Hermes smiled. He finally found a topic that the furnace was interested in. "Yes, don't go to the Arctic glaciers." Looking at the young face of the furnace, Hermes said, "You are still young and you still have a lot of time, so don't rush to the Arctic glaciers. There are only 5 Arctic constellations, which means that the area directly illuminated by the Arctic constellations is not large. As long as you control a few glaciers, you can control the direct points of all the Arctic constellations. The organization that controls the Arctic glaciers is not our Mogwen Empire, but the Archmage wizard you just killed, the Pillar of Creation where Nadila is located." Rudolph looked at Hermes in disbelief. He had an intuition that what Hermes said was true. "There is no doubt that what I said is of course true. The Pillars of Creation are on the Arctic Glacier. We have been neighbors with the Pillars of Creation for so long and know many of their secrets," Hermes continued. "Did you know that the last Gongji wizard who was not the Pillar of Creation was Mercury more than 200 years ago, and he eventually became the Zodiac Scorpio wizard? Unfortunately, he fell short in his fight for eternal life and died at the hands of Ptolemy. Even the brilliant Mercury was no match for Ptolemy. When I see you, it's like seeing Mercury who traveled across the northern continent in the history books. He was promoted as fast as you, but the difference between him and you is that he has a collecting habit. Mercury, he accommodates almost all the characteristics of the constellations and completes almost all the secret formulas of the constellations. He also used his unique spiritual witchcraft to learn many secrets of fire signs from the wizards of the Pillars of Creation. This was a disaster for the northern continent at that time. In order to obtain the relics, he killed too many apostles, which caused the order of the northern continent to collapse. As a result, the rule of knights was weakened. It was also one of the reasons why the alchemist was able to win the constitutional war. Mercury frightened the Pillars of Creation, and later they controlled the entire Arctic glacier. Unless with their permission, any wizard who set foot on the Arctic glacier would be obliterated by the Pillars of Creation. Over the years, the wizards of the Black Gold Institute have been able to obtain the permission of the Pillar of Creation. When the Pillars of Creation control the Arctic glaciers, they control all wizards. No matter how powerful the wizards are, Level 7 is the limit. So, Furnace, if you head to the North Pole, I think you'll meet Maries, the zodiac wizard of Aries. Not only Melis, you may even meet Ptolemy, who takes action personally. Believe me, the Furnace, even if Mercury is resurrected, even the Scorpio wizard Mercury at his peak, is no match for the pillars of creation. Rudolph was silent and didn't speak. He suddenly was no longer interested in collecting level 8 relics. So what if a lot of level 8 relics are collected? The pillar of creation occupies the North Pole, and he can't even defeat the evil god, let alone Ptolemy, the lord of Mars, who is even stronger than the evil god. Looking at the changing expression of the furnace, Hermes was very satisfied and struck while the iron was hot. Melting pot, human life is very short. No matter how many achievements you make in your youth, if you fail to achieve eternal life, everything is in vain and will turn into dust and the past as time goes by. You are still young, and I really want to see young people like you become the new eternal life, instead of Ptolemy or evil gods gaining the authority of eternal life. Rudolph had to put on a serious look and not let Hermes see the flaw. The pillars of creation approach is perfect, but it's a pity that two wizard constellations are outliers. People are old and can't eat more than a few mouthfuls. Hermes stood up. If you think this news is valuable, please pay attention to West Elba's dangerous alchemy experiments. As long as you know the content of their experiments, you will definitely stop it. Rudolph had no mind to think about the alchemist's dangerous experiment. How dangerous could it be? He is a little depressed now. That Senior Mercury has narrowed the path for future generations. He was quite dashing, and he must have given the pillars of creation a lot of trouble back then. The wizards after that will be unlucky. If you want to become a level 8 Gongji wizard, don't you have to be a dog for the pillar of creation? However, Rudolph had a star map, and he knew another way to become a sorcerer, which was to turn from Hercules to Cepheus, bypassing the constraints of the secret location. This road is dangerous, very dangerous, and you have to challenge it beyond the level. The problem now is that his many forbidden arts and Hercules are too strong. A level 7 martial wizard can contain the star power of 3 northern constellations in addition to Hercules. As a result, his current strength ratio is ordinary. Level 8 apostles are stronger. If he wants to break through the limits in battle, he must have the top level 8 apostles, or even the weaker level 9 apostles. Only knights can be called the top level 8 apostles. Or find a weaker level 9 apostle. Like the werewolf Corvinus. After Rudolph finished his lunch, he left the restaurant, entered absolute anonymity, and disappeared. Hermes, who was sitting in the carriage and was about to leave the city of Minos, said to the attendants outside, "As soon as possible, kill the archwizard of the Pillar of Creation in the furnace, and let the news of Nadila out, so that everyone knows that someone is challenging the Pillar of Creation. If the Ares wizard Melis leaves the Arctic glacier, those level 7 wizards hiding in the shadows will take the risk and try their luck on the Arctic glacier. It will be lively by then. Let the wizards do something, don't just watch the furnace perform alone." When Rudolph returned to Legura, he found that his deeds were known to so many people. Cooper and others rented a small hotel in Leger City as a base for the scavengers. Before Rudolph, Cooper, and others finished lunch, they saw Duan, the minister of the Judgment Department, waiting at the door. Rudolph came to see Duan, who was not allowed to be left alone for too long. Duan handed Rudolph a document with the employment agreement for the special consultant of the Sealba Alchemy Council. Special consultant? What does this mean? It's those positions with the title of royal in the royal family. Mr. Furness, you will become the most important consultant of Sealba in the future, and you will have the same power as the Deputy Speaker of the House of Lords. When Rudolph entered the House of Lords, he found that the House of Lords had held a meeting specifically for him. All 46 senators of the House of Lords attended and officially announced that Furness became their special consultant. Prime Minister and Speaker House was speaking passionately, and the two senators below were discussing. Do you think that in this case, we are the least afraid of the alchemists of the furnace? I think so. Now we are one of our own. After the meeting, Duan took Rudolph to the secret weapons depot in Leger City. Mr. Furnace, this is a giant air blast bomb. It is your quota of one per year. Rudolph looked at the air blast bomb, hesitated, and did not ask Duan about what Hermes reminded him. What dangerous experiments the alchemists are doing is the alchemists' business. Silva even publicly hired Furnace as their consultant. Is he still afraid that others will say that they have any dangerous experiments? Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 745. The news that the Furnace became the special advisor of the West Elba Senate was condemned by many forces in the northern continent. The condemnation of the Kingdom of East Elba was the most intense. They believed that the collusion between the West Elba Senate and the wizards was the most betrayal of all the chosen apostles. Crown Prince Tazdan died in the hands of the Furnace. Not only did West Elba not hand over the Furnace, but it also put its cooperation with the Furnace on the table. Even the United States of Cantal, which was dominated by alchemists, issued a statement saying that wizards should not be allowed to come to the front, which represented the collapse of the old order. They also condemned the knights, who were too bullying and caused this chaos. West Elba and Rudolph himself felt that it didn't matter. Condemnation, the most useless thing is condemnation. Just when Rudolph thought that the condemnation was a joke, Duan hurriedly found Rudolph. Mr. Consultant. The king of East Elba, Carloman XVI, also left the Holy Grail city and announced that he would personally fight to avenge his crown prince. The royal Holy Grail knights and the three dukes' knights were all dispatched and entered the Vulture Mountains. Carloman XVI, in the name of revenge for the crown prince, said that he would go to Leger city and personally execute you at the stake. It seems that you hired me as a consultant and angered Carloman XVI. Then, Mr. Consultant. Duan looked at Rudolph with expectant eyes. Rudolph replied, then I will go to the Eastern Front battlefield first to meet Carloman XVI. It just so happens that I want to know how powerful the 8th level knight is. Rudolph was about to make a choice between Carloman XVI and the werewolf Corvinus, but he didn't expect to be chosen by Carloman XVI first. When Rudolph wanted to find him, he first found Rudolph, which was a two-way rush. Fate, this is called fate. Duan was very excited. The Furnace had a record of defeating the level 8 Archwizard head-on. I don't know why the Furnace is so strong, but the strength of the Furnace is beyond doubt. If the Furnace goes to the Eastern Front, the help it provides to the Eastern Front will be much stronger than a few level 8 giant air blast bombs. With the Furnace guarding the Eastern Front, the House of Lords will be relieved. They have done everything they can, and the rest will be decided on the battlefield. Rudolph asked again, what about the evil god cult? What is the evil god cult on the Eagle's Beak Peninsula doing? Duan said, there is no big move for the time being. According to our intelligence, the evil god cult is still digesting the Eagle's Beak Peninsula and building a temple. In addition to building a temple, they are also sending the evil god cult army from the southern continent to the Eagle's Beak Peninsula. Tear down the east wall to repair the west wall. What if the north wall is broken? Then hit the south wall head-on. This is the way the West Elba Parliament has always dealt with it. Where are the werewolves? Commander-in-Chief Stein speculates that the werewolves may cooperate with Dong Elba's offensive, and Commander-in-Chief Stein will deal with it carefully. Rudolph knew that the Parliament was fully preparing for the Level 9 alchemy experiment, but he did not ask. The Level 9 alchemy experiment is 11 Elba's real trump card. He also hopes that 11 Elba can complete the alchemy experiment as soon as possible and bring changes to this country full of tragedies. Outside the Holy Grail city, the flags of the four major knights are flying. The Royal Holy Grail Knights have 12,000 cavalry, the Unicorn Knights have 9,000 cavalry, the Blue Lion Knights have 7,000 cavalry, The Ram Knights have 6,000 cavalry, and other cavalry of nobles at all levels such as marquises and earls, a total of about 40,000 cavalry, excepting the military review of Carloman 16. The cavalry is a giant beast that devours resources. In the farmland of Dong Elba, countless ragged serfs have contributed so many cavalry to this kingdom. Carloman 16, who lost his only son, stood on the high platform with a gloomy face, watching the cavalry phalanxes passing by. Eternal life, this is his only chance. He is eager to face dangerous battles. He will be promoted twice in the next war, becoming a 9th level Knight Emperor, and then a 10th level Immortal. Without a legitimate son, he will achieve immortality and be the king of the kingdom of East Elba for generations. No, he will become the emperor of East Elba and West Elba, as well as the wilderness, Cantal, and other regions. His empire will span the entire northern continent. Holding the knight's sword in his hand, Carloman 16 is ambitious. Knight Emperor. The immortal Knight Emperor. This is the dream of every king. No obstacles on the road ahead can stop Carloman 16 from becoming the master of the northern continent. Behind the high platform, a group of nobles sat in their seats, looking at the back of the king in front of them, with different thoughts. Unicorn Duke Stuart was full of worries. He always felt that even if they wanted to fight for the power of eternal life, they, East Elba, should not rush into the battlefield as impatiently as the werewolves. Wilf, the Duke of Blue Lion, had been silently executing the king's orders, never raising any objections, but never being passionate. Asino, the Duke of Ram, was breathing rapidly. He was the most anxious among the dukes. He had the smallest fiefdom, and the 6,000 cavalrymen were gathered by him by plundering the fiefdom over and over again. He risked his entire fortune for this expansion. Even the Marquis of the Golden Anchor, Palu, left the port of Quarter and came to the Holy Grail city. The constitutional navy was severely damaged by the evil god cult, and the port of Quarter finally ushered in a turning point and no longer had to face the powerful constitutional navy. For this expedition of the king, the Marquis of Palu also sent out the knights to respond to the call of His Majesty the King. In addition to the Marquis of Palu, there are 16 other marquises, a total of 17 marquises, who will personally lead the knights of their respective families to fight against the rebellious alchemists together. There are more earls. Marquis Palu's old acquaintance, Count Nahur, who is in charge of the Royal Navy's Eastern Fleet, also led a small number of knights to the Holy Grail city. With flags fluttering, Carloman 16 is full of confidence that he can rely on his knights to become the second Knight Emperor of the northern continent. According to the prediction of the Pillar of Creation wizard, the war went very smoothly. This is the most important war in the Kingdom of East Elba, and it is a national war that determines the future fate of the Kingdom of East Elba. If they win, all nobles will expand their fiefdoms. If they lose, the nobles will have to face the counterattack of the constitutional army, and even become the United States completely, and their noble status will be deprived. In the expectation of the nobles, the Knights of East Elba set out and marched towards the Vulture Mountains on the western border. Rudolph also brought the scavengers to the Constitutional Army camp under the Vulture Mountains. Admiral Joel, the Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Constitutional Army and the Commander-in-Chief of the Eastern Front, prepared a welcome dinner for the Special Advisor. At the welcome dinner, Joel and Rudolph did not stand up, and kept looking at the officers of all levels relaxing on the dance floor. This was their last chance to relax before the war. When the decisive battle with the knights came, everyone might die. Commander-in-Chief Joel might die, and officers of all levels might die. Admiral Joel did not ask the special advisor what the chances of winning against Carloman 16 were. There was no need. War is cruel. Win and win everything, or lose and lose everything. If you are afraid of losing, then try every means to win. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 746. There is a long and narrow valley in the Vulture Mountains, and only this valley can pass a large number of troops. At the exit of the valley, the Constitutional Army established a strong defensive line. The horses and trenches are in the front, the machine gun position is in the middle, and the artillery position is in the back. This defensive position gives the knights a very headache. High-altitude airships will provide fire support to ensure that the defense line is foolproof. If the knights wanted to enter the plains of Aquitaine in West Elba, there was only one way, and they had to break through the defense lines deployed by the Constitutional Army. The commander-in-chief patrolled various positions. Next to the commander-in-chief Joel, there was always a young man not wearing a military uniform. A young soldier named Weaver looked at the young man surrounded by staff officers and senior officers, and asked the squad leader next to him, "Is that the great congressman who came to gild the young man? I heard from the battalion commander that he was a special advisor to the House of Lords. What's so special about it? Who knows what's special? Anyway, he is a special advisor. I heard from the battalion commander that the outcome of this war depends on the special advisor." Weaver fell into silence and said silently, "The outcome of the war does not depend on us, so what are we doing here?" This question, no one can answer. Even if you ask Rudolph himself, there is no answer. Maybe cannon fodder? Maybe a screw in the artillery position? Transport airships continued to take off and land, delivering supply boxes to various highlands. On the main position on the south wing, Joel and Rudolph inspected the Level 8 alchemy artillery together. Level 7 alchemical weapons are launched with rockets. The rockets can automatically track the target and make corrections in the second half of the range to better hit the target. Level 8 giant air burst bombs don't need to be so troublesome. With a core explosion zone of 500 meters and an effective killing zone of 1.6 kilometers, you only need to send the shells to the enemy as quickly as possible. The terrifying killing range will cause a fatal blow to the enemy. Joel said, "Mr. Advisor, there are currently 8 giant airburst bombs on the Eastern Front battlefield. How many of these airburst bombs do you need to control? Only when the airburst bombs are in your hands can they have the greatest effect." After Rudolph thought for a while, he shook his head. "Minister Dwayne gave me a giant airburst bomb, which is enough for me. I will leave these giant airburst bombs to you, so that you can deal with those dukes and those level 7 knights." After hearing the furnace's statement, Joel was very envious. Ever since the news came out that the forge had killed the Gongji wizard, everyone in the Constitutional Army had even more respect for the forge. The big stone in Joel's heart fell to the ground. It seemed that the furnace was confident against the enemy's level 8 knights and could deal with Carloman 16 without relying on level 8 giant airburst bombs. After discussion, Rudolph and Joel formulated a rough strategy. If the knights launch a general attack, the forge will be responsible for holding back Carloman 16, and the other knights will be handed over to the Constitutional Army. This is the most dreamy tactic for the Constitutional Army. It is too difficult for them to fight against Carloman 16, who can explode with level 9 apostle combat power on the battlefield. Now that the furnace has taken away this most difficult bone, the pressure on the Constitutional Army has suddenly been reduced a lot. Rudolph turned around and asked, "How have you considered the request I made?" "We have convinced officers at all levels, and of course we agree to your request." The furnace's request was very strange. He actually wanted to recruit wizard apprentices before the war. The tradition that wizards must die has disappeared in West Elba. The main task of the Inquisition now is not to hunt witches, but to provide services to witches. Although I don't know why the furnace wants to recruit wizard apprentices at this time, given the strategic value of the furnace, the Constitutional Army will certainly be satisfied with this. If you can't survive, will you still worry about the emergence of many low-level wizard apprentices in the army? Okay, since you agree, then I will start my plan. That night, Rudolph and his 2 students, Arimon and Blanca, flew above the Constitutional Army with the Starstone, looking for young people with wizard talents. Every time they find one person, the two will release starlight swallows or crows to mark that soldier. Weaver, a common soldier who had expressed doubts about Rudolph's identity during the day, discovered that he had something extra on his head. He raised his hand and touched it, and found that it was a translucent blue crow. The battalion commander was wandering around the position, and after seeing the starlight crow, he quickly said to Weaver, "Lucky boy, you were chosen by Mr. Advisor." These selected young people were sent to the camp where the counselors were located. Weaver was very uneasy and didn't know what to expect. He saw about 400 young people. They were all ordinary people and ordinary soldiers. Ahriman and Blanca looked at these young people and sighed, "They are so lucky, these young people were chosen by the teacher. If it were not for their teachers, they would not have such easy access to the world of apostles." If the constitutional army had not been desperate, wizards would not be allowed to recruit disciples on a large scale in the constitutional army. If it hadn't been for the eve of the war, so many would-be wizards would not have been allowed to gather here blatantly. Ahriman stood at the front and shouted to everyone, "Divide them into 11 groups from left to right according to their birth months." As a wind wizard, Ahriman masters the special wind wizardry and can amplify his voice. Soon, these young people walked to their positions obediently and divided into 11 groups. Among these young people, there are no people born in the Aries month. Aries wizards are very special and need to be on the battlefield from the beginning of their awakening. Rudolph didn't want to make wedding clothes for others. If he trained an Aries wizard, it would be a big loss if he was taken away by the pillar of creation. Ahriman was very satisfied. These people quickly completed the grouping. As expected, they were soldiers. People who were trained were different. After the young people were divided, Rudolph appeared on the stage. He looked at the young people below and was very pleased. The star power swept over, and when it met these young people, the star power became vibrating, proving that these young people had very good wizard talents. There were 120,000 people on the eastern front of the Constitutional Army. Of course, there were more than these people with wizard talents. This time, only the most talented more than 400 people were selected, more than 30 people from each constellation. Rudolph said loudly, "Young man from Zielba, my special advisor to the House of Lords, Rudolph. You may have heard of my other names, Scorpio Wizard, Phoenix Wizard, Undead Wizard, etc. Of course, my most well-known name is Furnace." Hearing the name of Furnace, these people were shocked. They didn't know what such a great wizard wanted them to do. "You are fighting against the Knights of East Elba. I think you all hate knights very much and understand them very well. I want you to think about why people in the Knights' territory have always lived like serfs. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 747. I think you all know the size of the East Elba Cavalry Corps. This time East Elba mobilized all its members, sending more than 40,000 cavalry, and more than 10,000 knights. There were more than 10,000 knights participating in the war, and the number of noble knights not participating in the war was even more than 10,000. Every nobleman lived a luxurious life, and every nobleman needed to equip a large number of cavalry. To get all of this, the knights have to plunder their own fiefdoms. The serfs were naked and singing every night in the castle. Especially during the war, the exploitation of the nobles became even more severe. Even without investigating the life of the East Elba people, just by hearing the number of knights, you can understand how much wealth is needed to support the luxurious life of so many knights. There are too many knights? Rudolph looked at the young people in front of him and said, "Not only are there too many knights, there are also too many other apostles. The output of the northern continent is fixed, and it can produce so many resources every year. The apostles occupied too many resources. The apostles took away large chunks of the bread, while ordinary people only received a few crumbs. You are ordinary people who are weak and fragile. You are ordinary people who work hard for a few crumbs. You are ordinary people who have to work hard on the battlefield. Your parents are ordinary people, your friends are ordinary people, and your children will also be ordinary people in the future. One of the apostles took the bread away, and 100 ordinary people rushed forward to grab the few crumbs that fell from the bread. Do you feel humiliated? Do you feel unwilling? The words of the melting pot are like a heavy hammer, hitting every young person's heart. Yes, they themselves are ordinary people, their parents are ordinary people, and their children are also ordinary people. Their lives are pitiful, and so is their fate. Now, give you a chance. Use your own hands to change this bad fate, Rudolph shouted sternly. Please remember. All your sufferings are because there are too many people riding on your heads. All your sufferings are due to too many big shots taking away resources. All your sufferings are because there are too many apostles in this world. There are too many knights, too many werewolves, and too many priests. Even because there are too many druids, even the natural scenic areas in the wilderness are not open to you, and the air there is charged. The scenery is even more expensive. They will always put a high price on something necessary for survival, and easily rob you of half your life's wealth. Rudolph gave the alchemist a face, and did not say that there were too many alchemists. In fact, there were too many alchemists. Become a wizard. Join my organization. Join the scavengers. Rudolph's eyes sparkled in the night. I don't ask you to give me anything in return, and I don't ask you to hand over anything to the organization. The purpose of the scavenger is to clean up the excessive apostles and the apostles who do evil. Scavenger believes that when there are fewer masters and fewer predators, the world will become a better place and the lives of ordinary people will not be so painful and depressing. I give you the chance to become a wizard. Change your own destiny. Go change this bad world. The wizard's notoriety comes from hunting down other apostles. The horror of wizards is because wizards naturally have scavenger attributes. After the death of other apostles, their relics will become the wizard's witchcraft and support the wizard's promotion. You are the tigers and leopards in the world of apostles, the meat-eaters among the apostles. Only if you are stronger and the number of apostles is smaller, the life of ordinary people will be better. Don't forget your previous life, and don't forget the humiliation you suffered when you were ordinary people. With this humiliation, he embarked on the path of the wizard. Go hunting, go clean up, you are the scavengers of this apostolic world. These are genius wizards among the hundreds of thousands of constitutional troops. They will explode with great power in the next few years. The growth of each wizard means the death of many other apostles. Rudolph truly believes that there are too many apostles in this world and they need to be cleaned up. Facing the consultant's speech, the selected young man's face showed fear at first, and then uneasiness. They looked at the staff officer next to them and found that the staff officer did not make too many remarks, which meant that the Constitutional Army headquarters would not stop the furnace consultant. Before the young men could decide whether they agreed or not, the students of the Crucible Counselor, 2 young men of their own age, began to carry out the counselor's orders. Arimon and Blanca walked towards the young people. According to the grouping, explaining one constellation became the key to the wizard apprentice. Rudolph has many relics, and he prepared a large number of relics just to cultivate these wizards. It's August Leo, and the wizards awakening this month are all Leo wizards. From now on, there will be more than 30 wizards every month. Rudolph will train these wizards to become wizard apprentices and then send them on the path of wizards. Joel, who listened to the whole story from the side, had cold sweat on his head. When Rudolph walked off the high platform, Joel couldn't help but leaned closer. Mr. Consultant, your actions are too dangerous and your ideas are too dangerous. It's dangerous there. They're just wizard apprentices. They won't be able to form much combat effectiveness within a year. More than 400 wizard apprentices. It's okay. The characteristics of wizards determine that if they want to have some combat power, they have to wait at least a few years. Joel said tremblingly, I'm not talking about their number, not their strength, but their values. Do you really think that the northern continent needs scavengers? Of course, I certainly think so, Rudolph said. Commander Joel, I sincerely help you, the West Elba Alchemy Council, not because you are so good, but because the werewolves are too bad, the evil god cult is too bad, and even the knights are relatively speaking too bad for ordinary people. This is my real thought. I think there are too many apostles, and they have squeezed the living space of ordinary people too much. The believer crawling on the ground donated his life savings to the evil god cult. This is wrong. The hunched farmer, it is wrong for a man to work in the fields for a noble master all his life and not have his own half an acre of land until he dies. Those who strayed into the wilderness were kept in captivity by werewolves like livestock, which is even more wrong. I also hate the pillars of creation. Why do they have the power of eternal life? They even launched several wars that affected the entire continent. They deserve to die. Compared with them, don't you think that wizards have become more handsome? The only prey of wizards is other apostles. How healthy it is. This kind of thinking is too dangerous, and the values of the scavengers are too extreme. The northern continent will not allow such an organization to exist. Rudolph patted Joel on the shoulder and said, Commander-in-Chief, accept my help and my values. At this time, you have no choice. You don't think my action is really costless, right? Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 748. Free things are the most expensive. It is necessary to help Sealba with some private goods in between. The wizard's Leo month, that is, more than 30 people born in August, were distributed with starstones. Ahriman and Blanca told them the key to becoming a wizard apprentice. The former machine gunner Weaver looked at the starstone in his hand in shock and couldn't believe it was true. During the day, he was still complaining that since the key to the war was that young consultant, what was the meaning of the existence of ordinary soldiers like them? Unexpectedly, at night, he became that person's wizard apprentice. Furnace, this is his name. Weaver hurriedly glanced at the teacher of the furnace standing with the Commander-in-Chief Admiral Joel, and then immediately retracted his gaze and looked at Mr. Ahriman in front. More than 30 people were divided into two groups, one group was guided by Ahriman, and the other group was guided by Blanca. Mr. Ahriman was younger than Weaver, but he was the senior brother of these more than 30 people. The awakening ceremony of the wizard apprentice consists of 3 steps. The first step is to draw the great triangle of stars with the starstone. After the starstone rubs against the ground, it will leave starstone powder on the ground. These starstone powders can resonate with the zodiac constellations and are the coordinates of the landing of star power. I will demonstrate the great triangle of stars to you twice. You must remember the great triangle of stars. From wizard apprentice to level 4 wizard, the great triangle of stars is used. The second step is to attract star power. Now it is August, the month of Leo. You are also born in Leo month. The star power you attract is the star power of Leo. Look up in the direction of the zodiac, that there is Leo in it. The third step is to feel the witch language in the star power and learn the witch language. The witch language of Leo includes flame, dazzling, expansion, magnification, explosion, etc. What specific witch language you can learn depends on your talent difference. The first witch language learned by each person is different. I will tell you the characteristics of each witch language. When the star power is poured into your body, you will naturally know which witch language you are best at. After the instruction, Ahriman asked people to turn off all the lights in the camp to avoid light pollution, and then watched more than 30 young people complete the wizard apprenticeship ceremony. A brave young man born in Capricorn month came to Ahriman and said, "Brother, what about us? When can we become wizard apprentices?" To become a wizard, you must be born in the wizard month corresponding to your birth month. You are Capricorn month, so you have to wait until January. Seeing the hesitant look on the young man's face, Ahriman guessed what he wanted to say: "It doesn't matter. Teacher Furnace is here, the Constitution Army will not fail, and the Knights of East Elba will not affect your becoming wizard apprentices." When the wizard apprentices began to try, Rudolph also came nearby and watched the wizard apprentices complete the awakening ceremony. Ivan, Cooper, and others were curiously standing by. It was rare to see so many wizard apprentices awakening in public. Cooper turned around and asked, "Rudolph, is this how you became a wizard apprentice?" "Yes, that's a long memory. I became a wizard apprentice on the rooftop of the Lehmantown police station." "Is your teacher Bloody Salem from Lehmantown?" "Of course not. I, Rudolph, am a natural talent." Cooper didn't want to say anything more. He turned around and watched more than 30 wizard apprentices complete the ceremony. The prospective apprentices bent down and used the star stones from outer space to draw the astrological triangle on the ground. The star stone is like the carbon core of a pencil. Friction will produce a lot of powder. The prospective apprentices must ensure that the star stone powder is connected into a line without any interruption. There are 3 small circles at the 3 corners of the astrological triangle. These 3 small circles are used to attract star power. There is another large circle in the center of the triangle. In the center of the large circle is the constellation symbol of Leo, a symbol of a lion's tail. Between the small circle and the large circle are mysterious and meaningless lines. The natal constellation of these prospective apprentices is Leo, so he needs to start from Leo to enter the ranks of star wizards. The prospective apprentices took off their shoes and socks, stood barefoot on the big circle in the middle, and looked up at Leo. They chanted the star wizard's spell. Who can explain the twinkling of the stars? Who can catch the flying of meteors? Who can influence the movement of the stars? Dominate the stars. Only then can you dominate the world. Rudolph scratched his head awkwardly. Why are these spells so childish? Did he also chant like this when he became a wizard apprentice? For a while, more than 30 star triangles were covered with a faint blue light. These blue lights were the powder of the star stone echoing with the starlight in the sky. 1 minute later, all the powder of the star stone was full of starlight. The powder of the star stone, with the starlight, began to gather on the prospective apprentices. The star triangle was slowly shrinking, like a thin snake that came to life, slowly flowing towards the prospective apprentices. The glimmering runes and lines climbed up the apprentices' feet, along their skin, and into their trouser legs. These star stone powders would penetrate into their bodies through their skin, allowing them to establish a certain connection with the starry sky above their heads. When the star triangle completely disappeared from the feet, the venue fell into silence. The wizard apprentices were in high spirits, and some even raised their hands with a beam of flame jumping on their fingers. These were apprentices who had mastered the lion wizard language, flame. The person next to him suddenly raised his hand, and the candle-like flame burst into flames, burning a column of fire more than 1 meter high, scaring the people around him. This is the apprentice who has mastered the lion wizard language burning. The remaining young people born in the wizard month looked at more than 30 lion wizards one by one, and witnessed others embarking on the path of apostles with their own eyes. It was too shocking and too enviable. In the novel and joyful atmosphere, Rudolph's eyes fell on the last young man. When choosing a position, this person hid at the end. One of the people selected by Rudolph did not complete the wizard apprentice awakening ceremony. The star stone powder climbed up his body, but failed to penetrate into his body. Ahriman brought this unlucky guy to Rudolph. After checking, Rudolph asked, "Are you resisting star power and star stone powder?" This is a young man with dry yellow hair, looking at Rudolph in horror. Rudolph waited patiently until the young man adjusted his mood. He said tremblingly, "Teacher, my sister is a laundry worker for a congressman. She died in a sneak attack on the congressman by a wizard. I really can't overcome my hatred for wizards. I..." After saying this, the young man knew that he had said the wrong thing. He shouldn't say that he hated wizards in front of so many wizards. Sure enough, the other wizard apprentices all looked here and whispered in a low voice. "My condolences," Rudolph thought for a while and said. "I won't force you to do anything. You can leave here and continue to be a soldier of the Constitutional Army. I will also tell the Constitutional Army not to treat you differently. Good luck." Looking at the back of the young man, Rudolph didn't know what to say. Hatred will never disappear, it will only accumulate until it affects fate at some point. He looked in the direction of Scorpio with some doubts. He felt that there was something wrong with the star power of Scorpio. The Scorpio witch language, hatred, appeared in Rudolph's mind at this moment, giving him some new insights into this witch language. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 749. The collective awakening ceremony was a perfect advertisement. Rudolph proved with his actions that he was really training wizard apprentices. The remaining young people are looking forward to it, looking forward to awakening as wizards in the next month. Lion wizard apprentices walk with pride. After becoming wizard apprentices, they can use the simplest witchcraft. Arimon and Blanca will teach these wizard apprentices witchcraft, allowing them to have a deeper understanding of the changes in fate. For example, the simplest detonation technique can make bullets more powerful. The next day, Rudolph was found by a former acquaintance of his. Hyde, who came from Danny City on the Eagle's Beak Peninsula, appeared in front of Rudolph. Rudolph looked at his rank and saw that he had been promoted to lieutenant colonel. "Mr. Furness, we have been dispatched to the Eastern Front to fight against the Knights," he said carefully. "We people in the Eagle's Beak Peninsula all want revenge, but our strength is too low and the situation is tense now. I don't have the ability to get them the experimental equipment to become alchemists. Mr. Furness, can the young people in the Eagle Beak Peninsula learn witchcraft from you and become wizards?" Rudolph's eyes fell on the four young people behind Hit. These young people were all ordinary people. Without hesitation, Rudolph said, "Of course, I will arrange for Arimon to prepare the wizard awakening ceremony for the young people of the Eagle's Beak Peninsula. How many young people do you have?" "Mr. Furness, there are more than 500 young people transferred here." "It's more than 500. No problem. You can count them according to their birth months. Except for those born in April, the Aries moon, everyone can learn the wizard's awakening ritual from me." After Hader left, Joel found Rodolfo again a few hours later. "Mr. Consultant, what are you doing?" Joel was very panicked. Was the forge using the Constitutional Army as a base for cultivating wizards? Rudolph smiled and said, "It's nothing, just recruiting a few wizard apprentices. It will be a few years before they can play a role, and they will not affect this war now." Joel sighed in his heart and said, "Mr. Advisor, you can continue to recruit wizard apprentices, but these wizard apprentices are also soldiers of the Constitutional Army. They cannot leave their original soldier positions. What do you think?" "Of course, they are still your soldiers, they just have an additional identity as wizard apprentices, and they still have to fight for 11 Elba." Time came to September, the virgin month of wizards, and the second wave of apprentices also awakened. More than 30 wizard apprentices of the scavengers became chamber witches. These wizard apprentices discovered that Teacher Furness had not assigned any tasks to them. He only wanted them to become familiar with the witch language and prepare for promotion to level 1 wizards. To be promoted to level 1 wizard, you need to wait for 3 months, wait for the next wizard month of the same phase, and be promoted during the ceremony of making witchcraft. The first batch of Leo wizard apprentices did not wait for the next fire phase moon, nor the Sagittarius month in December, but first waited for the night's attack. The sirens are blaring, the knights of East Elba are coming. From the towering Vulture Mountains in the distance, horns sounded. At the exit of the valley halfway up the mountain, the first wave of cavalry appeared. Rows of cavalry rushed out from the valley exit and spread out to both sides. As the number of cavalry increased, the cavalry left halfway up the mountain and began to move down the mountain. The soldiers in the rear began to build camps and set up horse stables. The people of the Constitutional Army saw the knights, and the people of the knights also saw the position of the Constitutional Army. In the valley, the cavalry division of the Marquis of Golden Anchor followed the four knights and left the valley. Only the royal family and the Duke can form the glorious knights. The remaining noble knights will be organized into cavalry units. In addition to his own fief, the Marquis of Golden Anchor also occupies several cities around Port Coder. His fiefdom has expanded a lot and his strength is very strong. The Marquis of Golden Anchor has enough knights and cavalry to fill a cavalry division. The Golden Anchor family made its fortune in the navy, and the strength of the cavalry should not be underestimated. Caleb, the eldest son of Palu, the Marquis of Golden Anchor, and Kedrick, the fourth son, are both in the cavalry division of Marquis of Golden Anchor. Caleb pointed to the Constitutional Army position opposite and asked his brother, "My dear brother, do you know if there is your friend opposite, Rudolph the Forge?" Kedrick left the Royal Navy and temporarily joined the cavalry division. He did not answer his brother's question, but just observed the Constitutional Army position in the distance. The first thing that caught the eye was the dense airships. At a glance, there were at least 100 airships floating in the air. Artillery was densely arranged on the sides of these airships. On the deck are multiple rocket launchers. The airship floated slowly, giving the knights and horses a strong sense of oppression. On the ground is a multi-layered defense line showing a concave arc, with trenches, barricades, steel mesh, infantry, machine guns, and artillery, layer by layer backwards. Kedrick could imagine the tragic situation after the battle. The Constitutional Army's defense line would use bullets to clear out ordinary cavalry and low-level knights, weakening the effect of the protective chains, making high-level knights weaker and weaker until they were overwhelmed by high-level alchemical weapons. The cavalry must stay together when charging, otherwise the protective chains will not be effective, which provides a good target for the alchemists' weapons of mass destruction. Just thinking about it makes my scalp numb. Kedrick, did you say your friend the Forge is across the way? Caleb asked again. He was a little gloating. Since Furness was wanted by the royal family, the halo on Kedrick disappeared, and he became an ordinary noble knight, no longer having powerful external support. You'd better pray that Mr. Furness is not on the other side, otherwise, His Majesty the King will also have a headache. In the center of the knights, King Carloman XVI rode on a tall horse, overlooking the Constitutional Army position under the hillside. Behind him were the three dukes of the kingdom, Duke Stewart of the Unicorn, Duke Wilf of the Blue Lion, and Duke Asino of the Ram. Stewart reported to the king, "Your Majesty, according to reliable intelligence, the Furness is in the rebels' eastern front troops on the opposite side." Carloman XVI's cloak fluttered in the wind. He was not worried about the Furness at all. Instead, he said, "I heard that the Furness has a record of killing an 8th-level archwizard. His strength is very strong. My knights, who of you is willing to be the vanguard and try the strength of the Constitutional Army? No matter how many powerful weapons the enemy has, no matter how brilliant the enemy's record is, the knight will not be afraid easily. Except for Stewart, the other two dukes have burning eyes and are eager to try." Duke Asino of the Ram spoke first. "Your Majesty, please let me launch a charge. Let me try the strength of the Constitutional Army." Duke Wilf of the Blue Lion was a little envious. This is such a perfect opportunity for promotion. In this frontal war with a battle array, there is no conspiracy and no worries. The knight can lead his cavalry and launch a charge without distraction. During the charge, even if you encounter resistance, you will be excited and have the opportunity to be promoted. The battlefield is always the best time for knights to be promoted. Okay. Do casino. 3 days later, you will take the lead. As for the furnace, don't be afraid, in 3 days, Ares wizard Melis will come here from the Arctic glacier. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 750. We must launch a surprise attack tonight. Furnace looked at the sky in the north and expressed his attitude to the Commander-in-Chief Joel with great determination. Joel was frightened. He did not reject Furnace at the first time, because Furnace was the backbone of their Eastern Front battlefield. If Furnace said that he must launch a surprise attack tonight, it proved that Furnace had a reason to launch a surprise attack. He was waiting for Furnace's explanation. Rudolph retracted his gaze to the north. I did a divination. If I do nothing, then I will probably die in 3 days. If I die, then there is no need for you to continue on the Eastern Front battlefield. When the level 8 giant air blast bomb is finished, it will be the time for you to fail. Joel heard this and turned away without hesitation to arrange the surprise attack tonight. Furnace has mastered certain divination methods, which is one of Furnace's trump cards and has been informed to the Constitutional Army. The Constitutional Army's military astrologer admitted that Furnace's divination magic tool is very powerful, at least reaching level 7. Normal, the Constitutional Army should wait for the knights to charge. In war, the attacking side is stronger, but the defending side suffers less losses. But now is not a normal time, and the Constitutional Army must organize a sneak attack tonight. The army of the Constitutional Army has no sneak attack capability. The army's artillery is very heavy and the soldiers are very fragile. Once they leave the defensive position, they will become fat meat cut by the cavalry charge. However, the Constitutional Army has airships. Airships are very restraining weapons against knights and are more flexible than knights. There are always more than a dozen airships for reconnaissance floating in the camp of the Constitutional Army, and these airships will not arouse the vigilance of the knights. In the valley far away from the Vulture Mountains, airships are parked with the help of the mountain. These places are dangerous places without roads. Scouts will not come so far first, and second, they can't climb the cliffs. These airships for sneak attacks were originally one of the killers prepared by Joel, and now they have to be used as soon as possible. One airship took off from the valley, circled the mountain, and moved towards the target. The astrologers of the Constitutional Army began to interfere with the enemy's divination to ensure that the information of the sneak attack would not be leaked. Rudolph even summoned the word Spirit Larry and started the first round of confrontation on the battlefield of astrology. When they advanced to a certain distance, all the airships suddenly rose from the ground, from the back of a mountain, straight up, and passed through the clouds. The height of the airship was so high that there was no one on the deck. Everyone stayed in the cabin and observed the scene above the sea of clouds outside through the round window. The navigator kept looking at the coordinates and controlling the direction. Today's weather is very suitable for sneak attacks, and the sky is full of dense low clouds. The atmosphere in the night camp is very solemn. Before the decisive battle, no one knows what their fate is. Suddenly, a soldier with good hearing looked up and heard a strange sound above the sea of clouds, like thunder. Some smart people have guessed the worst possibility. Could it be that the nobles' airships were attacked? Dongerba also keeps some alchemists, pays them money, respects them, and doesn't care who the alchemy bullets they make will hit. An airship passed through the clouds, but the problem was that it was too fast. This was not a normal speed. The airbag of the airship was broken and the airship fell straight down. The Blue Lion logo was painted on the side of the airship. This is the airship of the Duke of Blue Lion. Various horns suddenly sounded in the night camp, and the nobles rushed out of the tent and began to organize defense. In order to prevent concentrated damage caused by giant air blast bombs, the night camp stretched for several kilometers and was very scattered. After several more noble airships were shot down, more than 50 airships broke through the clouds at almost the same time. Behind the clouds were more airships. This scene was so shocking that the ordinary knights on the ground finally had a little experience of the defeat of the knights more than 200 years ago. The airship opened the bomb door at the bottom, revealing the bombs hanging inside. The bombs whizzed out of the cabin and fell towards the knights' camp. Some bombs exploded directly in the knights' camp, and the camp was instantly shaken and filled with smoke. Some bombs were shattered by the knights, who reacted quickly and exploded in mid-air. However, the exploding shrapnel can still cause casualties to the knights on the ground, which is more hidden and more difficult to prevent. As the pioneer, the Ram du Casino has assembled a cavalry team of more than 1,000 people behind him. The sound of horse hooves sounded, and the guardian chains were linked in the air. One knight after another provided the Duke of Asino with extreme power. The Duke of Asino held a flying axe, and a white light shone on it. The flying axe, which was full of the knight's extreme power, was thrown by Asino to the largest airship. A flash of white light passed by, and the knights in the distance were all looking forward to the Ram knights being able to shoot down the enemy's flagship airship with one blow. Kedrick had just assembled his cavalry and was ready to move closer to his father. The knights' camp was too big, so it took some time to gather. He also noticed the white light. Duke Asino was a level 7 knight, and his flying axe could defeat the defense of most level 8 apostles. At this moment, a shield suddenly appeared in the sky. A strong, muscular arm shadow, holding a shield decorated with ivory and emitting flames, blocked the flying axe. Kedrick recognized it at a glance. This was the shield of Hercules, the ancient hero most admired by the knights. It was the shield given by the ancient god of fire in legend. Then, a shadow appeared in the sky. A face as sharp as a knife, deep eyes, a thick neck, high shoulders, a golden breastplate, the lion skin of the Nemean lion, and in addition, he was also wearing the silver bow of the sun, the olive tree club, and so on. After the appearance of Hercules, the night camp suddenly fell into silence. Kedrick looked at the Hercules, who was 100 meters tall and like a god, and was a little at a loss. The olive tree club, Hercules' favorite weapon, fell from the sky and hit the Ram knights heavily. Hundreds of people in the Ram knights were killed and injured in an instant. In the flying dust and screams, 2 more flying axes flew into the air. However, the 2 flying axes were stuck on the golden breastplate of Hercules and could not go any further. Hercules suddenly took a step back and took out the silver bow of the sun on his back. The bowstring was fully drawn, and a sky arrow appeared on the longbow, with lightning flashing on it and burning pure white flames. The sky arrow combined with the Lion King's starfire made the attack power of this arrow extremely terrifying. Kedrick felt his scalp tingling. Could it be that the battle had just begun, and East Elba was going to lose a duke? Too strong, Hercules is too strong. Is this the strongest North Sky wizard who can kill the 8th level arch-wizard in the intelligence, the Hercules wizard? Not only Kedrick saw that Duke Asino was in danger, but those knights of higher levels also saw the danger. A conical knight's lance flew out of the camp of the royal knights and shot straight at the top of Hercules' head. The furnace stood there, overlooking the battlefield. The speed of the javelin was so fast, it was the javelin thrown by Carloman 16. The javelin killed the furnace without a doubt, and the furnace did not dodge at all. In order to kill the enemy with one blow, he did not choose to dodge. Hercules' son Silverbow launched a fatal attack. The olive tree club disrupted the guarding chain behind the Duke of Arsinoe, and the sky arrow shot by the son Silverbow pierced the Duke of Arsinoe. It is not appropriate to say that it pierced. The diameter of the sky arrow reached several meters. The terrifying sky arrow sank deeply into the ground. The Duke of Arsinoe's shoulders and head fell to the side. As for his body, it was completely engulfed by the hot white Lion King sparks on the sky arrow. The absolute hit combined with Hercules' son's silver bow is not something a level 7 knight can dodge. The knights were shocked. Joel, the commander-in-chief of the constitutional army in the distance, put down the telescope and raised his mouth. It is worthy of being a furnace, killing a level 7 knight with one death. As we all know, the life of the furnace is not worth much. The last death record is 30 times. And the Duke of East Elba is very valuable. There are only 3 dukes in the whole East Elba. The furnace quickly revived on the battlefield, summoning the Hercules again, and stared at Carloman 16 from afar with provocative eyes. "Come on, Your Majesty. Do you really understand war? Do you really know the death in war?" Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 751. The one who died was not an ordinary knight, but the Ram Duke Arsinoe. Arsinoe, the boastful one who first revealed to the past that he would become the Grand Duke in the war. In the court of East Elba, the Duke of Arsinoe, who ranked in the top 5 nobles, died in the first battle at the beginning of the battle. This brought a huge psychological shock to other nobles. In a truly cruel war, even if you are a duke, you can die at any time. Carloman 16 rode on his horse, shocked by the sharpness of the furnace. It was very abnormal that the constitutional army did not stick to it and followed the furnace to attack. There was only one reason, that is, the furnace knew that the 9th level Ares wizard Melis had left the glacier and was heading south. The furnace danced on the edge of a knife and became a thorn in the eyes of many forces. He had not been killed for so long. The evil god cult could not do anything to him, and the pillar of creation could not do anything to him. It was indeed something. However, it was still a bit stupid to provoke an 8th level knight. Could he be so sure that the 8th level knight was much worse than the 9th level Ares wizard? The royal Holy Grail knights felt the king's anger, and the absorption in the guardian chain suddenly increased, causing all the knights to tighten. At the same time, Carloman's momentum suddenly became stronger, the air avoided him, and the air waves rolled around him. Rudolph, a fake level 8, met Carloman 16, a fake level 9, and even though they were far apart, he felt a dull pain in his eyebrows. On this straight line between the two sides, the knights hurriedly avoided, not daring to stop the king's charge. With the sound of horse hooves, thousands of knights accelerated behind Carloman 16, galloping, and rushed towards the phantom of Hercules. Behind Hercules, 3 chains flew out and connected to the 3 northern constellations controlled by Rudolph, Lacerda, Coma Berenices, and Sagitta. Together with Hercules, a total of 4 constellations provided star power to Rudolph, allowing Rudolph's power to temporarily reach the level of 8. The heavy footsteps of Hercules stomped on the ground, and together with the hooves of the Holy Grail knights, the hillside trembled and the stones on the top of the mountain began to roll down. Joel put down the telescope in fear, and then picked it up impatiently. Didn't they say they were going to attack the knights' camp? Why did it look like a decisive battle right from the start? The furnace could kill a level 7 knight, which didn't surprise Joel, but how did the furnace fight the king of East Elba? The second knight's spear suddenly appeared, dragging a long white tail, like a ray, and hit the shield of Hercules fiercely. This time, Rudolph did not take shortcuts or commit suicide, but resisted this attack. Hercules trembled all over, and there was a gap in the power level of the two sides. The shield blocked the knight's spear, but only for a moment. The shock wave caused by the knight's spear alone made it difficult for Rudolph to deal with it. Rudolph was hit by the shock wave, and felt that the flesh on his windward side was blown to the back by the shock wave. At this moment, his style changed. The flesh on his cheeks almost fell to his ears. He lasted 2 seconds in the shock wave before being blown away. The shadow of Hercules was shattered by a blow and shattered into star power. When Rudolph stabilized his body in the air, he found that his calf and shoulder blade were fractured. The level 7 dolphin congestion gave Rudolph a strong recovery ability, and these fractures were recovering rapidly. The Holy Grail Knights were still rushing towards Rudolph, and Rudolph quickly summoned Hercules to prepare to deal with Carloman 16 again. Knights always like to fight head-on, and after becoming a Hercules wizard, Rudolph's fighting style has become more tyrannical, which surprised those who are familiar with him. Cooper looked down from the airship and said to himself in confusion, "What's wrong with Rudolph? Why doesn't he use Rebirth of Fire to avoid the Knight's attack?" No one explained this problem. The Crucible, which has always been the main force of wretchedness and sneak attacks, suddenly had to fight head-on with the level 8 Knight. The second fight between the two sides ended with Hercules being shot. However, the furnace still did not revive. In the severe pain, Hercules appeared again. For some reason, the star power of the furnace became extremely huge, and it could summon Hercules 3 times in a row. Top starlight creatures like Hercules consume a lot of star power every time they appear, and normal wizards can only use it once a night. The furnace showed his strong star power, which was amazing. The distance between the two sides was very close. Before being defeated, Hercules swung the olive tree club downward. The thick club was full of raised tree knots, which hit Carloman 16's head. The olive club could no longer fall at a height of more than 20 meters above the ground, because the knight's javelin hit the bottom of the club. Not only that, the knight's javelin completely pierced the club and went straight to Rudolph. Rudolph, who was standing on top of Hercules, was about to leave when he realized it was too late. The two sides were too close. The knight's spear instantly engulfed Rudolph's figure, and Hercules disappeared. Rudolph was shot dead by Carloman 16. Without any waiting, the flames that were about to be extinguished on a burning flag on the battlefield suddenly burst into flames, and Rudolph's figure appeared from the flames. Without any breathing space, the figure of Hercules appeared again. Outside the main battlefield, everyone else was stunned. They thought that the furnace would attack the knights, and that a level 8 giant air blast bomb would appear somewhere, but they never thought that the furnace would face Carloman 16 in this way. What would the furnace do? Duke Ram died, and Duke Blue Lion Wilf had not yet come out of shock, and did not know how to change the battlefield, when he saw Duke Unicorn Stewart had begun to fight back. Duke Stewart did not concentrate all the power of the knights on himself, but let the 5 level 6 knights behind him attack alone, so that they could throw 6 level 7 javelins per round. The javelins whistled into the sky and flew towards the airships, shooting down one airship after another. While the furnace was holding back Carloman 16, the airships were not idle, constantly dropping bombs and bombing targets on the ground. The horse farm had the weakest defense, and it had turned into a sea of fire in the first round of airship attacks. Piles of hay turned into fire, causing huge losses to the horse farm. Without knights, the war horses were just ordinary horses, engulfed in the sea of fire, and burned to death one by one. The knights' counterattack was very fierce. Spears flew into the air, breaking the alchemical reinforcement array of the airship and instantly shooting down the airship. These spears forced the airship to increase its altitude, but several airships were not keen on dropping bombs, but kept reporting coordinates upward. These coordinates were transmitted to the sky and received by the highest airship. There was a sand table in front of the commander of the airship. On the sand table was the terrain of the hillside, the knight's camp, and the locations of several knights. The Blue Lion Knights are approaching the Unicorn Knights. The estimated killing range can seriously injure 2 knights. You can fire in 3 seconds. 2 seconds. 1 second. Cooper's duty was to protect the flagship. He watched a special cannon with its muzzle facing down, firing a level 8 giant air blast bomb. If Carloman 16 is held back, how will the knights deal with this giant air blast bomb?